Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Space Podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by my brother. How you doing, man?
What up, bro? Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Today is a very special episode because we have a guest that's a close friend of mine, Nil Vinyals. Nil, how's it going, brother?
Great. Very, very happy to be here and have this discussion. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. For our listeners, Nil is a current professional soccer player for Spokane Velocity in USL League One. As I said, a friend of mine, we actually played together on another pro team, Richmond Kickers, many years back. And I had an amazing time getting to know Nil and obviously an amazing time playing with Nil. Nil is an incredible player. So if you haven't seen him play, please make sure you go check out Spokane Velocity. They're doing amazing this year. And the biggest thing I can say about you, Nil, amazing human being. So again, thank you for your time. And I'd love to talk about your story and everything you have going on as of right now.
Yeah, no, again, thank you so much. Of course, it was great to spend that year and those couple of years there in Richmond. Get to know you on and off the field. And as we all know, like soccer is amazing, but really what sticks around is the relationships that you make along the way. And of course, you also introduced me to your brother in those days, and I was able to finally meet him in person in an Open Cup game. So really, really happy to be here and just have this conversation with you guys.
And so Nil, obviously from Barcelona, Spain, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your upbringing, how you started in the game, and what your experience was like playing in Barcelona.
Yeah, so of course, growing up in Barcelona, your dream is to play for the first team, right? And you don't really know any other sport besides football. Of course, basketball is pretty big in Spain, and I even tried handball at one point, but which is pretty funny. But yeah, soccer or football was always my main sport, and honestly, my family was always supported. I have a family of athletes. I have been in different sports, and they never forced me to go into football or forced me to pursue a career. They were always supportive of what I wanted to do and outside of soccer or sports. So yeah, I'm just really happy that I was able to grow in that culture and of course that I had a super supportive family around me.
Very, very similar to us, actually. I would say that, we always had a very supportive family. We did a bunch of different sports. I know my brother and I, we both played basketball. We both did track, also obviously soccer. And so we kind of were everywhere. But the biggest thing was just the love and support from our parents to take us different places, for us to try things, always just encouraging us. And so obviously very, very similar paths in that sense growing up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really important. And as you know, you guys have been in coaching for longer than I have. And you can see in the American society how sometimes both in soccer and other sports, it's more the parents' dream for the kid to be a professional athlete than rather the kid's dream, right? And I think that ends up turning into a problem within the family itself, and of course the kid or the athlete doesn't really enjoy it and ends up quitting the sport. So it's really, really important again just to have that supporting family and somewhere where you can really rely on tough moments too.
No, I love that. Neil, it's good to see you. I wanted to just ask you a little bit about Barcelona and growing up there, and if you could say more about what the culture is like in terms of you growing up as football, and then tell us more about where you started playing and that experience.
Yeah, so Barcelona, I feel like where I really learned how to play soccer is in the streets, in the park. You would just go to a park, random park, play with players of all ages, kids around there, two balls at a time. And that's where really you have to learn different techniques of controlling, of passing, of shooting, playing against people that are physically much taller, much stronger than you, and you have to find different resources to get around. And that was kind of a theme throughout my whole career, even now, that I've always had to try to find different resources to get around kind of the physicality that some other players might have. But that I think it's a gift because it allows you to express yourself in different ways and to grow in many other areas that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I think it was amazing growing up in Barcelona in that sense. And of course, again, really supportive of the clubs that I was able to join at an early age. I started playing in a small club. It's called Figueras. When we were living there, it's around 1 hour and a half away from Barcelona. So that's where I started playing. I stayed there until I was 7 years old, and then I went back to Barcelona. So my family went back to Barcelona, and that's where I started playing for the Barca Academy. So I was playing for their team, the Sam team, and then I was signed for the Futsal Academy, which really was. I was only 1 year there, unfortunately, for the Futsal Barca Academy. We had an unbelievable team. There's actually one of the players I played with, which I'm really good friends with. He's playing for the first team of Barca for futsal and Spain's national team. Sergio Gonzalez, great guy and great player. And as you know, you are in Barcelona, you want to play for 11 aside, right? And you feel that futsal maybe is not as cool in a sense, which looking back, it's probably one of my biggest regrets. But that year really had a huge impact on who I am as a player right now, on the technical, attributes that I have, on like the toe pokes, on like the rolling of the soccer ball, and I think also like the understanding of space and how clean it makes it to be technically. So after that year, I had the option to stay one more year with them, but I again chose to go to 11 aside, and I went to a really small academy that's called Junior FC. It's 20 minutes away from Barcelona. I tried out for some teams like Espanyol, like Cornellà, and many other academies. Common theme was I was too young, too small, wasn't fast enough, etc. That I needed a couple of years to develop. So I went to this club, Junior FC. They had a great methodology and a great technical director. I really learned a lot in those years. I made friends, and I just stayed there for almost when I went to the US. So really, really grateful for my time there. I would say that looking back, maybe I could have been in a better academy for my soccer development. But I think that when I went and made the decision to go to the US, which we can talk after, when I was 17, it really allowed me to have the understanding of the game, those development ages that is so important, and also the technical attributes to then develop into the player that I am right now.
And Nil, it's so fascinating. I want to go back to something you said. You go to these different teams and they tell you, oh, you're too small. And I think sometimes people, they think this conversation about athleticism is just in the US, and it's everywhere. That, yeah, sometimes and maybe oftentimes the bigger, faster, stronger players at younger ages are the ones that are picked. And a player such as yourself, if obviously people need to have they need to go and see you play or watch you play online. And you're a fantastic player, very cerebral, but you can see maybe that, at a young age, you were probably smaller, a lot smaller than other kids. And so immediately I said, oh, he doesn't stick out right away. And so he's maybe going to struggle with the game. And so I just want people to know and understand that it's not just here in the US, in other parts of the world as well. Even in a country like Spain, physicality is sometimes the main factor that they look for in players.
Yeah, and I feel like that's changed a little bit since I was a kid, of course, because of Spain's success. From Guardiola to Luis Enrique to the national team, and I think that really pushed forward all of the academy coaches and methodologists to really include players that maybe are not as physically strong and fast. But yeah, back in the day when I was still young, it was the faster, the stronger kids were always given the opportunity. And I think there's a stat that really sticks out to me that is like the kids that are born in the first 6 months of the year always have a better chance to make it professionally, which because they get better coaching, of course, because they're physically, stronger and faster early than the other ones. I'm from September, so I'm on the other side of the spectrum, but it really sticks out, and I think it's changing in Europe. I hope that in the US it's starting to change too, because there's so many talented players that are just overlooked because of their size at a young age, which, as we know, when things level up at older ages and in the physical sense, what really important is how fast you think and how technically you are to be able to execute the game at a high level. So yeah, hopefully it's changing. It's changing. It definitely has changed in Spain, and I think it's changing in the US too.
Well, what's interesting to that, I love that stat that you put out, and there's also one, I think there was a study done in the Bundesliga of the players though who are later in the birth year and who are smaller they actually end up, if and when they go pro, they actually sometimes end up being top players and earning more.
Yeah.
And it's in part. Have you seen this study? It's yeah.
Yeah. So I heard something about that too. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
it says a
it's
lot.
because of what you said, where they had to adapt their game when they were
Hmm.
young to find. I love that you use the term resources, right? Different resources, different solutions, right? And then when they get a little bit bigger and they finally grow into whatever their body is going to become, they've developed a way of processing the game that it gives them a special edge. And then if you just look objectively at the history of football, right? We all hear football people, the top players in the world, universally loved throughout the ages. A lot of them have not been big, strong, fast, like the biggest, strongest, fastest. They've all had strength, of course, and some speed, of course. But I mean, Messi, Maradona, even Pele wasn't a gigantic person. I mean, he was pretty strong, fast, but like these are not big, big, big people, right? In the same way that people would look at other big athletes and think, oh my goodness. Related to that, I was just gonna ask a follow-up question too. When did you hit your growth spurt? Because you're not sure. Like you and my brother are probably like similar height right now, right?
Yeah.
You guys are like
Yeah.
5'11" ish. So when
Yeah.
did you grow? When you went to those coaches and they said you were too small, how big were you then? And then when did you develop into, the size you are
I
now?
I would say like I didn't develop into a size or like physically where I really felt that I was at the same level as maybe other players until I was 22, 23. So it took
Late.
a long time for
Yeah.
me to really feel like comfortable in the sense of like both the intensity of the game and then also physically like muscle wise and strength wise. And yeah, growing was kind of a problem too because then you have to start winning headers and it comes with some problems with me that I don't really like heading the ball much, as Mumbi knows. Uh,
Yeah.
but no, jokes aside, yeah, I think 22, 23 is when I actually felt really good physically. And of course, I had some injuries in my first years as a pro that really, even when I went to the Kickers, I had the athletic pubalgia that really set me back a couple of years. But I feel now, from 26 to like I'm now 28, and hopefully a couple more years, it's when I've been feeling the best, and I hope to be feeling the best in my next couple of years. And you're also more mature, you know your body better, of course, what you can do, what you can't, and managing the effort within the game, which is also something that you learn throughout the years. But yeah, I was a late bloomer for sure. But again, it came with a lot of advantages because it made me have to improve in so many other ways. And then when you feel that you're physically at the same level, then you have so much time on the ball that you're like, this is amazing. So yeah, definitely late bloomer.
Neil, I wanted to touch on a couple things. The first is you said 22, 23. So by this time you're in the US, right? At this
Yeah, yeah.
time, and you're in college, right? That age?
Yeah, so it's my last year of college,
Last
and
year of
I'm
college.
already like trying out for the USL League Two team, which was Tormenta, and then signing for 2019 in Tormenta. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How
Where
was
did you
the
go to
experience?
school? Where did you go to school, Neil?
So I came here when I was 17. First year I was in a D2 school in Jackson, Tennessee, super small school. The soccer-wise wasn't the best experience, but it allowed me to transfer to Winthrop University, which was a Division One in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and that's when I really like developed. And then last 2 years I played for Tormenta in USL League Two, the old PDL, and then I signed 2019 for Tormenta.
What was the experience like playing at Winthrop?
Yeah, so it was. I felt like I came from Tennessee, which first when I came here, I had no idea about like how college leagues work, no idea about scholarships, no idea about anything. I just picked the highest scholarship and just went there in Jackson, Tennessee, middle of nowhere. So then coming from there and going to Winthrop, I thought Winthrop, 6,000 students, a huge school, it's close to Charlotte. So for me, it was a big change. And it definitely a big change on the academic side of things, and also, of course, the college itself, and most importantly, the soccer side of things, which my first year, 2015, when I got there, we had a really, really competitive team. Winthrop historically has been one of the top teams in the Big South Conference, and we actually won the conference my first year and went to nationals. So that was a super exciting year. I played a lot too. Coming off the bench, starting, of course, I was like a sophomore there, and I was fighting with the seniors. But then the following years, they were not as good in terms of soccer. We just lost a lot of seniors and a lot of changes and budget cuts. But I feel those were probably my most important years of really realizing that this is probably my last shot to make it pro, and that I really have to change a lot of habits to not just say that I want to be a pro, but actually be a pro. And that means going into the gym a little bit more, making sure I have a clear routines in the morning and after training, before training, etc. And I feel that really kicked in my last year of college, senior year, and also helped me a lot that I was involved in the USL League Two team with Tormenta in my junior year, and then of course the last year, which was a tryout to sign for the 2019 team. So it's being at the right moment at the right time, and I was at the right moment at the right time in Tormenta. But of course, you also have to make the case for you to be there, and I was lucky enough to have both. And I know there's so many international players, especially that since there's limited spots, don't really have the chance. Now there's more teams in League One, more teams in Championship, so it's a different environment that when I was coming out of college. But yeah, lucky enough that I was able to make it in Tormenta and then develop those years, and well, now I'm in Spokane, so it's been a long journey.
And you're loving Spokane.
I am loving Spokane. Yeah, Spokane has been amazing. From the ownership group, they've been just super supportive of the players, and I heard amazing things from the first year. Now, of course, they're in the second year, so that was great. Also, on the soccer side of things, we have a really, really good squad. Like, there's probably the strongest squad individually that I've been part of in League One, and the coaching staff is doing an amazing job. And again, I think the results are showing, which sometimes, it takes time, but I think we've hit the ground running, and we're in a very good spot. As we know, there's still a long season to go, and a lot of things can happen, travel, etc., which were like part of the way than the rest of the teams. But we are really, really happy, especially on the day-to-day, which is really what allows you to enjoy what you do, right? And it's, if not, sometimes, and I had some conversation with Mumbi about this, like, it becomes a 9 to 5 job, and why are we doing that, right? We're here to enjoy, to compete, to suffer sometimes, which is important, right? And the competition itself. But at the end of the day, it's a game, and you have to enjoy it, and you have to make other people enjoy it too, right? And the results will come, and they've been coming for us. So yeah, super, super excited to be here.
No, so I want to stay on that topic for a little bit. I was gonna throw in a joke about the game that we played in the Open Cup, but I just want to say I have all the respect in the world for what you guys are doing, and from the coaching staff. They seem top notch. I have a couple questions for you. One, what was it like, if you remember well, the first question is more about the organization as a whole, because obviously they lost in the final last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before you got there. So what was the conversation like as you come in terms of getting ready for this season? Currently, as things stand, you are currently still top of the table, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are.
flying.
Yeah.
So I want to know about that and how that is, and the training environment, all that. And then I guess my second question would be sort of more about the preparation specific to the Open Cup match, and what how you guys prepared for that. But yeah, man, tell us about Spokane Velocity.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was seeking when I left the Kickers was a professional environment off the field, and the motto, the mission of Spokane Velocity, or USL Spokane, because of course they have the Zephyr team too, is really to provide the best environment for the players to grow and for all the staff to grow, and also have a true impact in the community. I feel like every single club is going to say that they want to have an impact in the community, but it's a huge difference on saying it and actually doing it. And I think they show it day in and day out, their commitment to really improve the Spokane community, which is a really young community in terms of soccer. They are still learning the sport, and they're learning the sport with Velocity and Zephyr. And I think the first year they had amazing support from the fans. I actually played with the Kickers in the first ever game for Spokane Velocity. It was absolutely packed. It was an amazing environment. So yeah, from that day on, I was like, there's definitely something special about this club, and I want to be part of it. And then on the second piece is I want to be part of a competitive squad where it's going to challenge me to be better, right? And to get out of my comfort zone. So of course I knew the challenge I had ahead. We have, again, as I said before, an amazing squad. All of the 22 players that we have could start in any USL League One team. And of course I have in my position Luis, which is the captain, one of the top players, not the top player in the squad last year and this year even. So it was a good challenge, and having the conversation with the coaching staff, that's what we mentioned before. So I really enjoyed the challenge of growing, of having to really show up every day in training. Training is really competitive. There's a clear objective. There's a clear objective of why we're going to train this way in relation to the opponent and the opponents that we're going to face. And that's what I was seeking for my next step in the career, in my soccer career. For the Open Cup game, I cannot disclose many secrets, but
No, of course, of course, of course.
nah, I'm joking. If I remember correctly, it was a midweek game. I think it was a Wednesday game. Yeah, so we had like a game Saturday, and then another game the following Saturday. It was also the start of the season, so I got late because of my visa, and other internationals got late too. So it was kind of those first 3-4 weeks were still like finding our identity in a sense, adding some key pieces from the internationals that were late. 4 or 5 of us were super late to preseason, and I think it was more about, of course, we had clear objective of how did you guys play and how we were going to take the spaces and create advantages in that. But it was also more about how can we keep developing our identity and also provide opportunities for players like me, for example, that just got there and that were getting our rhythm. I think I played like one game before that, maybe, or half a game before that. So it was more about us than the opposition in a sense for the first 3-4 weeks. And lucky enough, we scored in the last minute of overtime with a deflection goal. So if not, I don't know what would have happened. But it was a really even game, and as we mentioned before the goal, like you guys had really good chances to win it too.
I'll accept that. Nah, it was awesome. Before I turn it back to Mumbi, I think if I can say a word about Spokane and watching them now a couple of years, especially that Open Cup game in person, it was cool to see because you could tell that the staff had been there and Coach Weidman had been there and had developed a way. Because when we played them the first time and they were brand new, it was a little bit rougher, and this time it was like you guys were almost in. There was a period of the game where you kind of settled and you went into almost cruise control, right? And that was cool to see. It was like, wow, okay. This is definitely a pro team, but a pro team that knows what they're trying to do and manage themselves. And when you're able to turn it on, it was cool to see. So, no, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear.
I would ask you, like, how did you approach the game against us?
Well, the mentality for us is this is a great opportunity, and the difference in preparation. So actually, to lay the context for the folks who don't know. At Ballard FC, we played against Spokane Velocity in the Open Cup 2 years in a row. And this year we lost in the very last minute before penalty kicks. So that was unfortunate. But the way we prepared for it is a little bit more challenging because we didn't get our guys until 2-3 days before, because obviously not being a pro team and having guys at college, it's kind of a mixed group in the weeks leading up to it. Not an excuse. It's just the way we have to sort of manage it. And then as simple as, okay, we put who we consider to be the fittest, most informed guys who have been playing at their schools on the field, and then with a simple enough structure and ideas that we can understand, try to press the crap out of you guys at the beginning, and then just manage, stay in the game, take our chances. We have some talented guys, as you guys saw, and some guys that are really hungry. And what would be cool, and unfortunately it's it's a knockout game, but what would be cool is to have because now in the summer we have our guys and we've been training a little more consistently and playing games. So to play the game again would be really interesting, just to see how far we go. I believe you guys would obviously be at another level, but I think our group would also be at another level because we'd have more of a rhythm. But the way we approached it was, great opportunity. Let's get him back from last season. Let's stay in it. Let's not concede any dangerous transitions. So I kid you not, the most frustrating thing about the final goal was we literally spoke about and showed video of like, hey, here are situations we don't want to lose the ball because they're so good on the transition. And even in that play, it wasn't fully like we couldn't have dealt with it, but
Yeah.
it's football. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
it's football.
And there's always the possibility you guys meet again next year in the Open Cup.
Yeah. I mean, probably we're gonna meet again.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And that was, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Oh man, the Nil. There's I know we've watched you a couple times this year, and it's been excellent every time we've watched you. My brother happened to be at the game the next round where you guys played Defiance at Starfire, and there were a couple moments in that game. So we'll have to go over the first one. The first moment. There's a moment where you have this quality, this special quality that you would have developed early as a player when you talked about like your size and how you had to develop different resources. There's an action you do on the ball that I remember seeing in Richmond where whether you're coming up against a bigger, faster, stronger player, doesn't matter. You protect the ball in a way that you're still dribbling forward, but you're able to cut a player off as you're dribbling. So their size, their speed, their strength doesn't matter. It's nullified because the position you've taken is like this. So if we're driving, you can do this as a player really well. Really, really well. And so this player can't touch you. There was a sequence you dribbled like 30, 40 yards. And my brother and I were like, wow. We talked about it. I was like, wow.
I think we identified the exact same moment, right?
The exact same moment.
Yeah.
The exact same moment. We were like, wow, that's special. You've been able to do that for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned because and every team that I've been, they were always like, "Oh, you're like one of the slower guys," you know, like they always make fun of me, which I don't care. But then with the ball, it's a different story, you know. And I feel it's more about the time and space than rather than the speed and of course the control of the ball. But it's about understanding your surroundings and really positioning yourself. So it looks like you're much faster than them, but it's really about the positioning, right? So yeah, it's something I guess it's one of my best attributes of like dribbling and driving at people, and it's also about like understanding when they're gonna step, so then you can accelerate. And I think those like 2-3 meters, 2-3 yards that have of acceleration, which is not really having to be really explosive or fast, but it's really knowing the timing of it. It's what makes the difference for most of the times with like stronger and faster guys than me. So.
Talk about your eyes in that situation, specifically when the defender's behind you, right? Because and what I want to ask is, was that you talk about playing in the park, of course. Was this ever explicitly coached at any of your academies, though, or was it something that you realized? You know, and talk about your eyes. I don't want to. I mean, I think I know what you're doing, but I want to hear from you and you explain that situation. So the scenario, and if you remember the play, it's basically you've got the ball and you've cut out the defender who's now behind you. You're going forward. But you managed to do it in a way, like Mumbi's saying, where the player can never really get in front of you and take the ball, and you dribble, 30, 40, you progress up the field. So tell us about that process for you.
Yeah, so I think the first thing, it happens before I receive the ball. So before I receive the ball, I try to identify like who's around me, of course, from my team and from their team, and most importantly, who are those people and what qualities do they have, So if I know I'm going against the fastest guy in their team, then I'm gonna change my approach on how I dribble, or how I change speeds, or how the technical action of the dribble itself. Same thing happens if I know that I have a really fast guy, really fast striker in my team. I know that or that he normally does a type of movement. When I'm drilling, I'm thinking about that, so I know what he's gonna do or normally does. And then also I know that maybe he can play in behind instead of receiving to feet, etc. So I think that's the first piece that when I receive the ball, I have that information, and that's really important in my decision making on understanding the qualities of the players that I have around. The second piece, I would say, is and it's something that I mentioned to a lot of people too. I feel I think it's changing a little bit, but like too many midfielders are used to just controlling passing, And I feel when I'm defending a midfielder that every time that he has the ball, I don't know if he's going to pass or actually engage me and dribble. It makes me really uncomfortable when I'm defending a midfielder like that. So I feel when you are playing against someone that has the capability of can play a through ball or can play a longer ball, but also is always looking to engage you to see, okay, if you are not honest with your defending, I'm going to go at you. It really makes it uncomfortable for them throughout the whole game. And that's the second piece, being determined to go forward and to really engage and take that risk on quotes to take players on. And it's a calculated risk, of course. And I think the third piece is understanding the space that I have available around me, which I think it was definitely coached throughout my youth, but it's also something that you acquire with the years of playing. And again, playing in the park and playing with different constraints and just free playing when you're young, that it's almost like intuitive and that you feel when their space is there and you feel when you can attack it. It's difficult to explain it in mechanic words, but I think those are the main processes that happen. And then I have 2 or 3 dribbles that I know that are going to work normally, So then when a player's approaching, I already have in my mind, okay, like cutting back to then like pulling the ball back to then dribble forward. So it's smooth and I can keep progressing using the fake, like kind of the Cruyff turn, which I do like all the time. My teammates already know it, so I cannot do it in training anymore. But yeah, that's kind of the thought process. And again, the last piece is just acceleration, the little acceleration where they think that you're like just gonna pass the ball, but then you go at them and engage them.
Right,
and when you're in front of them, either they foul or you're gone. And that's one of the most important things, right? Just getting in front of the defenders.
That's so incredible, man, because that's so powerful with like the simplicity of that, but also the difficulty of doing that at speed. There's so many layers to what you said. What I want to highlight for our young, we have listeners who are maybe just training on their own or want to know what to get better. What I heard you say there is a couple important pieces. You don't have 50 different moves that you have to do, right? You have 2 or 3 things you said that are ways that you think about getting out of trouble. And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, but one thing I see you do as it relates to just your eyes, your vision, once you've cut that player off and they're behind you and you're dribbling, yes, of course, you're looking forward, but you're also taking quick glances. And I saw this in person, right? And I saw this in person. And I saw it, twice. I saw it in person from the sideline at Ballard FC versus Spokane in the Open Cup, and then I saw it when you guys played Defiance. But, like, as you're dribbling, it's almost like you're dribbling with rear view mirrors. And because you're constantly glancing, which side is that defender trying to jump me? If they're faster, right? Because, yes, you're running with the ball, so inherently you're going to be a little bit slower maybe than if you were just running. However, because of your positioning, because of your touch on the ball, and because of your ability to just shift a little bit, you keep the defender behind you. And it's a beautiful thing. So, anyway. Is that accurate to say you're constantly just checking a little bit? Where's this?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the I mentioned 1,000 things. I didn't mention probably the most important thing, which is like checking around when you're dribbling. And I think, of course, you can only do that if you have the technical ability to dribble without looking at the ball the whole time. And that's really important. And to acquire that at a young age, it's really important because then it allows you to really play with your head up, which of course is something that all coaches reinforce, and dribble with your head up. So then you can do those micro adjustments when you're dribbling, and then change little body position. So like if I know that he's coming here, I just use my body to then maybe use my left to dribble. Someone that does that at another level is Pedri. He's able to do that with both feet. I'm only do it with my right. With my left, I cannot do it as much. But yeah, that's someone that, for example, if young players want to look up to, like he's amazing at dribbling, at getting out of trouble type situations, and dribbling with both feet and using both feet as resources and solutions in different situations. So that's a powerful tool to have in your toolkit.
I have the privilege, or I had the privilege of training and playing with you, Nil, and seeing that every single day was unbelievable in training. And it's funny because, when I spent my time in Spain, those qualities you're talking about, it would come up in training. Like they would put us in certain games. Like, oh, okay, I can see why guys would develop those skills because of the training. But just to ask you specifically, what's one or two of the games or constraints, right? So if it's a game, maybe you talk about the game setup. If it's a constraint, like what are some of the rules that might bring up, or game setups that might bring out that behavior from you, that you were able to develop that skill or those skills over time?
Yeah, it's I would say, and of course it depends on the objective, but there's many coaches that adjust the number of touches. I like keeping it, and even in the Barca methodology, you normally keep it at no touch restriction, because in the game there's no touch restriction, and again we want to be as game-like as we can. There might be a specific scenario that you want to play two touch, or maybe a neutral plays one touch or two touch, but I think it's easier to adapt the space around to make players think faster rather than adapting the touches itself. So I would say that's the first important thing. If you want to encourage players to dribble, they have to have the touch requirement to dribble, right? If not, it's impossible. And we're getting sometimes with the wrong idea from some coaches, I feel like, of it always has to be one touch, it always has to be two touches, but rather taking 3-4 sometimes, and understanding, it's more about understanding of the space and the time rather than the touches that you take. It's something, for example, that me personally, that I've heard from like a lot of coaches of like, oh, you have to play faster, you have to, and I play faster to me is a concept that it's very vague, because there's different rhythms, there's different tempos at how people do technical actions. I'm not at the same tempo as you are, Mombi, and that's not that you're better or worse than I am, or I'm better or worse than you are, but we're just at different tempos. And I think you have to respect the tempo of each player. And then the second piece about like playing at different speeds, right? And there's times that the game needs you to attract the player, that it needs you to put your foot on it so you can attract here, always with an intention of where is the advantage and why are you attracting, which I think is the most important thing. But in regards to constraints, I think that would be my biggest point, just not limiting the touches, and of course creating a game environment that it's like the game that we play, which is 11-a-side, and that allows, of course, players to really think about where are the advantages and why are they drilling. Why am I drilling to the left, right? Why am I drilling to the right? And there has to be a purpose behind that. Is it to progress? Is it to attract here so I can play to my left, or the opposite? So doing things for a reason is really hard. And then maybe the technical execution is not there, but as long as the ideas are there, you can always improve on the execution, if that makes sense. But I'll throw the question back to you, or to both of you. What are some constraints that you think that are important too?
Kosai?
I mean, I was going to say, I love, there's much of what you said that I just like, I resonate with. And I do think, and I know, well, deeply, that we as coaches can sometimes overdo it with the constraints, and we don't think about how every little adjustment we make from the real game, every departure we go from the real game, changes the experience for the players, right? Yeah. So, of course, if I restrict somebody to two touches, not only am I not going to see dribbling, but I might see more, you could say, missed connections with other players because they have to release the ball. And so I have to really think honest, like reflect and be very clear about why am I asking for two touches. In some situations, as you said, of course, the game's going to ask that. But I prefer, much like what you said, as a coach, I prefer to design exercises that naturally bring out a player's need to play in one or two based on what the information that the defender's giving them, rather than me creating it for the players. So I resonate with that deeply. So I always prefer to play with the space and the time, and of course the number of players, more so than the number of touches. I rarely in my trainings restrict it, when I'm designing an exercise, restrict number of touches. So I agree with that.
And I'll add to that, Neil, I have a really big appreciation for what you said about recognizing what the opponent's doing. So you talked about when you receive the ball, before you receive the ball, you're looking and saying, okay, where are my teammates? What are their qualities? But also, even in the first minutes of games, I've watched you do this many times. You're kind of looking around. almost like a quality that obviously one of the best players in history, or the best player in history, has, Messi. He'll look and he'll look and he'll look. In the first few minutes, he's studying, right? And I'm sure they've done film. I'm sure he's watched film, and the coaches have talked about, oh, here are the weak points, and here's what. But he has to see it in live time as it's happening, because there may be something different, or he has to see the timing of that adjustment, right? And so I'll see you look and look and look and look, and that's so important, because how can you play with a preconceived idea in football? It's almost impossible. Almost impossible. Like to say, oh, this is going to be the outcome, so this is what I'm going to do. And I think that's the trap sometimes players have. Is, oh, coach said this, or this is what the scouting report was, or here's what we think they're going to do, so I'm going to just do this one solution the whole time, right? So a team intention idea is like, okay, these guys are going to press, so we're going to go long, okay? But then when they drop, we're still going long. Why are we going long? The space is in front now. We can conduce, right? We can dribble. Yeah. We can attract them, and we can play shorter passes maybe. But just that recognition of what is the game asking, right? If a team drops off, it's different than if a team presses high, because the space is somewhere different, right? And I remember in Thailand there was a game, I'm playing, and I told my brother this, and I'll tell you this. I had to adjust my way of playing, because even though I was playing the same position, center mid, that I've played before, I had to play it differently in that team. So there's a game we're playing, and this team I was in, relegation battle, a very young team, mostly inexperienced. So for us, launching the ball, kick it, second balls, running, very direct. But now we played a team that was older, an older Thai team. And this team, they weren't pressing. They sat off. So I'm sitting there 5-10 minutes. I'm going to the center backs, give me the ball. Going to the center backs, give me the ball, right? Of course, I'm not asking them because of the language, right? But I'm coming to the ball. The ball's going over my head. And I'm like, guys, they're, again, it's tough. I can't explain it, right? Because I can't speak with them. But my coach could speak English. So I remember, I think we had a hydration break because it was like 100 degrees. I said, Coach, we can play. The space is in front. We can build. I can come get the ball and we can connect, because we can't play behind them. They've dropped off. He's like, oh, okay. And then we tried to maybe do a little bit different. But again, it's hard to change that in the game with young players. But just the idea of read the game. What is the game asking you? And that's how you need to approach it. Obviously, you have the game tactics. You have a game plan. But you also have to see what the opponent presents to you.
Yeah, no, both at the collective level, but also at the individual level. Like something I think is very important you mentioned is you have to feel the space. You have to know like where the space is specifically in that game, and adjust to it dependingly on of course, again, the players that you have around, but also most importantly the opponents and the space that they're going to provide. And that's something that the first 5 to 10 minutes you feel the space. You feel, okay, can I come receive here? Do I have to go deeper? How are they set up? Do we have a numerical advantage here? What are the tendencies of the opponents, which of course you already know as scout, but then you can see it, you can feel it. And most soccer players, most athletes, I would say, will learn by seeing and by doing, right? And you have to do things to really learn them. And you can have all the preparation in the world for the game, but at the end of the day, the players are playing the game. And something that I always encourage in my players is to have the personality, right? If you are playing, then have the personality to make a mistake and to get the ball and really be a protagonist, which I think it's wanting the ball. For me, it's wanting the ball. For other people, might be defending the whole game, which is different approaches, and everyone has their own. But wanting the ball, you are gonna be the one making the mistakes. Okay, you take ownership of that, you learn, and then you grow throughout the game. That's how I approach it. And at the collective level, I think it's similar ideas though.
I'm curious who the players are that you grew up idolizing and watching, and that really inspired you.
I would say, of course, I had the pleasure to watch Ronaldinho when he was there, and he completely transformed the club in a sense, the culture. It was when Rijkaard was there and was the beginning of the change for Barca, and it really, with that Brazilian soul and like rhythm, like really impregnated like kind of the whole city of like playing with a smile, like enjoying soccer, trying different things. I've seen him do things in a game that I wasn't I even imagine before. Was amazing. But I would say someone that was like similar to me was Iniesta, and of course the way that similar to Pedri now, like those type of players that they're just so good at understanding the time and space, and with the technical ability that they have, they're able to break lines in so many different ways and create chances, understand advantages, and I think he was definitely the standout for me, as I could relate to him to an extent, of course. But
Did, uh, did you ever watch? Did you ever watch highlights of Laudrup?
yeah, Laudrup was very good too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Laudrup was very good too. Very
The reason
similar.
I ask is because, and you probably know this, but whenever Iniesta is asked about players that he idolizes, he always mentions Laudrup, right?
Yeah,
And when you watch them, and La Croqueta, and
yeah,
but I like you, that of course that Barca team, Ronaldinho's team was special as well,
yeah,
a lot because of the flair that he brought to it and just the way. But the from 2009, of course, the Guardiola teams, and then of course the later Enrique's team
mhm,
with Messi, Neymar, and Suarez, which is slightly different. But Rakitic in the middle of that team, those type of midfielders. So your Iniestas, your of course Busquets, Xavi, Rakitic. These types of players are unbelievable to me, and they're underrated because seemingly what they do is so simple, right? And so people will say, "Oh yeah, but it's safe." It's like, no, but it's
no,
to control football matches. So let's take Xavi for example, because I don't
yeah,
people Iniesta's unbelievable, and to me he's
yeah,
maybe more dynamic. I'd love to hear your
hmm,
thoughts on that.
yeah, I
But
agree.
like more, you know what I mean? Iniesta can
Yeah, yeah,
dribble and score and do it.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
Iniesta's different level, but also Xavi's unbelievable, right? Because to control a match,
That's the
taking
word. That's the word.
two matches, or to be that kind of tempo setter, and he can like. Anyway, what your thoughts though? I just
No,
appreciate those
I
two players
agree.
so much.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. And Busquets, I think it's even like the next level. Of course, Xavi, like he was even like pushed up a little bit more to be more attacking minded. But I think Busquets, you know, same thing, similar topic to what we were saying before. Like, oh, he's not fast enough. He's not, unquote, athletic enough. All these things that we've been hearing, and he's been proving it throughout his whole career, of course, at the top level in both the European competition and international level, and even in the MLS, where people said that it was too transitional, he's not going to keep up with the game, etc. And I think those are great examples and great players, and that's why it's so important for me that teams that want to keep the ball, that value possession, keep winning, like Luis Enrique now with PSG, of course Barca with Flick, even with a different style and approach, because then it really validates that players like that can play at the top level. Um, and for players like us, especially for me, it's a great validation, and I feel like part of the success that I've had here is also because of Spain's success and Barcelona's success and the way of playing. It's growing, and so coaches are more interested on having players like more technical and that they understand the game better, which is always a positive aspect. And I think a huge shift from like 20 or 30 years ago, which was completely different for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about this stuff all day, man. I absolutely love breaking down the game, and I know Neil, that's something that we would do often. And it's funny.
Hmm.
So we recently talked to a player, a recent retired player, Jonathan Mensah, and he brought up a player who the episode's coming out, but he described him as a chess player. And so I wanted to ask you about your background in playing chess. I know that's something we did together in
Yeah,
Richmond. And I was telling my brother that I really appreciated that because obviously it relates to the game, but it was also something fun to do and for us to bond
yeah.
and hang out. And I know we went to the park and went to someone's house and we're playing games. But how does chess relate to football for you? What do you see in terms of the similarities?
Yeah, there's so many similarities. Again, it was amazing to play chess there. I feel like when I was in Richmond, I was playing the most chess I've played in my life. I backed off a little bit because I have other things that are worrying me now. But no, chess. I think first the pieces itself, like you can relate clearly with the different attributes, different movements, different strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's just a natural fit to if you look at the soccer field. Different players that have different attributes and strengths and weaknesses. And then it's about soccer, of course, about protecting at the finest or the simplest concepts about protecting the goal and scoring goals, and in a sense, chess in the same way is about protecting the king, which of course can move, but it's normally in the back part of the board. So besides that, if we get into more complex like tactics, I would say like the opening. So like you can even resemble the build up, the middle game, and the final game. So you could even like break it down into like the thirds and fourth, depending on how you approach it. But there's so many similarities, and the most important thing is that it makes you think, and there's a combination of improvisation and intuition in chess. Like Magnus Carlsen, probably it leans more towards intuition, but there's also like a preparation and theory behind it, which I think it's that balance of like too much information and letting the players enjoy themselves, which is a different, very, very difficult balance to have as a coach, because you don't want to overload them and you want them to enjoy and really show their intuition, but at the same time, we need to provide at least some information for them to know the scout and the spaces to exploit. So I could go on, but I think there's so many similarities, and chess is an amazing game for sure.
It's a fascinating discussion because I was gonna like some people don't like the comparison, and maybe you're aware of this, Neil. Like, but like there's a some people just will bang their head and say football is not chess. Now I want to be very clear. Obviously, that is the case, right? There are differences as well. But I think what I resonate with what you're saying is you can pull ideas from it, just like any other thing. You know, you can pull ideas from music, you can pull ideas from that relate to football. So if you're relating, I love when you talk about the balance between intuition and having a plan, because that's very clear in chess. When you study chess, and Mumbi and I, yeah, we've talked a lot, right, about the game, and we've played our own games. But that's the fascinating thing about chess is like it's amazing to hear and to read about these grandmasters who have very defined ways of opening a match, and then to think about how far ahead they are in their thinking is also really fascinating. And
Yeah,
that
for
is what
sure.
I relate the most to the game of football, which is
Hmm.
yes, you have all these moving pieces, so they don't stay in one board, okay, like chess.
Hmm.
And like you said, the goal's stationary; it's in the middle. At the same time, it's an invasion sport, so I'm trying to access certain spaces. And what I think is fascinating, the link for me is, and this is a follow question I have for you is this, which is the ability to attract and to pin pieces on a
Hmm.
chessboard. So in order to access the king, sometimes I intentionally put a piece in a spot and I don't move it, and I wait to see what the other person does because that piece is holding space or it's fixing a piece, which might open up something else. And a lot of similar happens in football, right? Which is irrespective of the style that you play, right? Because if you want to play a more associative style where you have people coming to the ball and going rather than more positional style, you still have people who need to respect space or hold certain positions in order to allow certain, you could say, opportunities to present themselves. So, anyway, do you want to like, you get where I'm
Yeah.
going with that?
No, no, it's really cool, and it made me think of I was actually reading a little about the history. I got a book that I bought about the history of chess and like kind of the different movements, like how it developed, and it was funny because at the beginning of the chess history in like 1950s, even before, they were all about like how you win is the important thing, like how pretty is your like checkmate in a sense, right? It's not about winning per se, but like how you do it and how your combinations are and stuff. And then it evolved to more of a uncoached pragmatic approach that it's all about winning and it doesn't really matter how you play or your style, etc. So I think that's also very relatable to soccer.
Yeah.
And something that's funny to me is that there's this discussion about like the romantics and like the pragmatics, and the romantics are associated to like possession football and pragmatic is about like launching the ball long. And to me, what is actually pragmatic is keeping the ball, dictating the game, controlling the game, and being the protagonist, and will give you the higher chances to win. Of course, attracting so making someone enjoy the game of soccer, both the players and the fans, is really, really important, comes with that. But what people maybe sometimes don't realize is that PSG, Barca, Manchester City, etc., the big possession teams, they play that way because they want to win, not because they want to
Right.
complete 500 passes in a game, but rather because they truly believe that that's the way to win. And of course, that comes from Johan Cruyff School and others that developed it. But that's definitely something that always stuck out with me of really. I heard it a lot. You're a romantic. You just want to keep the ball to keep the ball. It's rather the opposite. I want to win games, and I think it's the best way to do so.
But what would you say about a different, so like a South American style, for example, specifically Brazilian, which is yes, we want to enjoy, we want to we want to score, we want to win. It's different though than, let's say, a European, or what we could say the positional. The terms are, I don't know if you've heard these terms, where it's like positional and relational, right? People discussing these different ways of. What would you say about that?
Yeah, so I think that the Brazilians, of course, South America as a whole. Before I start, I would say like every single team wants to win, right? And they find different approaches within the players that they have and assets that they have to make that work. Um, that being said, I think the Brazilian game has always been about flair, it's about enjoyment, it's about trying different things, expressing yourself, and much more the individual than the collective. But, and we saw it in the World Cup, the Club World Cup, the Brazilian teams are at a very, very high level. And right now in the modern game, we all know that you need the 11 players to really be bought into your idea. And I think the PSG, with and without Mbappe, and other cases, even Madrid, this last couple of years, where the individual was at the top before the collective, it doesn't work anymore. And I think the shift in the South American soccer, it's been about that, achieving a collective purpose. We've seen Fluminense, we've seen other teams that have done amazing performances and that have been very unquote non-Brazilian, in the sense of stay back, be more compact, go play on the counter, and everyone is committed to doing the defending and helping each other. So I feel, as we know, no, soccer is evolving in different parts of the world, and the culture of each region of the world really has a huge impact on how you play and how you understand soccer. But yeah, I think the Brazilian teams especially have been improving a lot, and the budgets and the financials also like show it. So yeah, it's amazing to see what they've done in the World Cup too.
Couldn't agree more. Nil, before we let you go, I know that this is something that's near and dear to your heart. Please tell us and tell our listeners about Project Inspire. I know this is something that you've been working on for quite some time now, and there's a big update and a big breakthrough. So please take us through all of this.
Yeah, so again, we mentioned
That's
this
incredible.
a couple
That's
months
incredible.
ago,
How
and it's
can
been an ongoing
well,
process
first,
to get to the
how
point that we
how
are
did
right
you
now.
get
Project
started with
Inspire is
that,
basically a
and then how can people
non-profit
support?
that I
How can we
co-founded
help
with
it
João Gomiro, which is
push
an
you?
also an ex-Kickers player. And the objective is to improve the well-being and inclusivity of people with intellectual disabilities through sports competition. And sports competition is a very important concept for us. We are creating the first nationwide competitive league, soccer league for athletes with intellectual disabilities in the United States. We have 4 teams confirmed, thank you, that are one Knoxville, USL Spokane, so my team, Sacramento, Colorado's Spring Switchbacks, and then Houston, which is an independent team from Texas. We are super, super excited on where we are. We got $100,000 from the U.S. Soccer Federation for the first edition of the league, and also the most important thing, or one of the coolest things, is that the pool of players in our league will be selected up for selection for the first U.S. national teams to ever compete internationally, with the goal to put a team together in 2026 in Lima, Peru. And again, it's been amazing, all the support that we've gotten from 20 plus organizations. We have like 19 people working for the project, 8 advisors, etc. And the most important thing is that for the first time ever, we're going to create a space for these athletes to be treated as athletes and not participants. And that's really the differential factor that we want to put forward. The events are specifically for them. They will have nutritional plans. They will have a fitness app. They will have all this stuff, just like you and me and all the people in this call were able to experience at the professional semi-pro level. That's what we want them to experience, to represent their city, their club at the biggest stage possible. And yeah, it's an amazing journey. So really, really, really excited to share with you guys.